I think Mr. Mito Dison, actually, we're very thankful for F2 Logistics for sponsoring this event. Sir Mito Dison has a question. So can you turn on your camera and mute and direct the question to our panelists?
All right. Hi, everyone. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much to SMA for organizing again this annual event, and thank you to the guests for sharing their thoughts and, of course, their respective researches on this new normal. So I just like to ask, based on the data that you have presented, on how do you see the logistics and warehousing company do this fourth quarter of 2020 and 2021. And I'll just also like to reinforce the question of my colleague, Marlene Deriquito, who, from our area manager in North Luzon. And how do we also see the sharing of cargo flow between air freight and sea freight? Because I think most of us here in the session are from the logistics and warehousing industry. So we just like to know what do we need to do, where do we need to focus on, and the roles that we need to play moving forward. Thank you.
So I think something to do with air freight and how would logistics companies adapt to this situation. Can Mark start it off?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Piercarlo. I will try to see from the angle of the sharing cargo flow between the air freight and sea freight. I think this is a very interesting question, especially for the Philippines and in its structure. I know the way Philippine Ports Authority is structured with 26 PMO in many islands, and there's a specific case for Cebu Ports Authority with 11 more ports and terminals. It's very important. You have to link it up to your airline network, especially that now you've seen a lot of airlines have gone down. They're laying off a lot of people. And then you have all those planes that have no usage. So I'm not a specialist on air cargo, but there's probably something that could be played there and reconverting some of the planes. But remember, the message is for the moment, you have to secure your supply chains, but you need to maybe play a lot on your domestic market. If I take the case of China, they have a huge domestic market, and the airlines, as you've seen the figures from ICAO, they've gone up the fastest because they have this huge internal market. A bit like Indonesia, your neighbor that is sharing this concept of many islands and people scattered all over. So I think this is definitely something you need to look at and see if there's any opportunity and if they're feasible economically. So you need a deeper analysis. Now the cargo split will have to be decided because, as it was mentioned by Rosemary before, you could see, and some others panelists in the analysis, you can capture already in the Philippines, you know exactly what people are doing, their buying habits, what products they need, and what is the supply chains all the way to the material, the raw goods or services you're providing. So this is the kind of answer I could give you. Thank you.
Thanks for that answer.
Me?
Yeah, go. I was good.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, it's kind of, very, the question's really very, on the perspective of retail, actually, retail, basically the lifeblood is just product movement. It's as simple as that, I mean, for retailers, it's very important that you get your product to the right customer, or you get your product at the right time to the right customer and the right quantity, So what's important is that, let's say you're a retailer and then you don't have layers and you're buying direct, let's say from your source, let's say you're importing globally. I mean, you're a global import. I mean, you source it globally, So what's important is you have the right partner. I mean, especially now, during this pandemic, I guess it's really very important for you to do your planning, your supply chain planning. I mean, your material resource planning. I just want to cite an example with Wilcon. Prior to the pandemic, actually, we were already anticipating that because majority of the stuff that we import are from China. That's about probably 60 to 70% of our of the inventory. So as early as January, we already planned to or even earlier than January, we already planned about the inventory, So because we know that Chinese New Year is approaching, and we never really imagined that there's going to be this pandemic, So we already planned our, our sourcing. So we already place orders. And what's very the silver lining with this pandemic is that we were able to stock up, to build inventories even during the time that we were not allowed to operate. So we were able to serve some of our stores. Like for example, even if let's say 85% of our total revenue was affected because majority of our stores are in Luzon, 44 of them, and then the rest are in Visayas, Mindanao. So we were still able to, to supply. We were still able to provide replenishment to our stores in Visayas and Mindanao. No, so I guess it's really more of the right planning of your supply chain, and then the logistics also. And we were able also to pull out containers, no, even if really there's a challenge on, let's say, there's a challenge on the port, no, because only a handful can report for work as well because some are infected, no. So these are the challenges that we face, no. So it's really having a robust operational system or a robust technological support that you have, no, and of course partnering with your suppliers, partnering, collaborating with whoever your logistic provider is, no. So I guess on the retail perspective, no, it's really more of enhancing or strengthening your supply chain, no. So having the right partner and then planning well prior to, because nobody really expected these things would happen, no. So it was just like we were just lucky that we were able to build the inventory. So when we reopened already, we have enough inventory to supply. We did not expect that when we reopen, there's going to be a surge of demand of these essential products that used to be they don't sell much, no, during that, like for example the soft categories or the soft lines that we have, no. So yeah, having the right relationship with your suppliers, and of course one of the I think one of the plus factor also is that you have to have not only good relationship, but of course you have enough capital, no, to fund whatever inventory you need, no.
Oh, that's a very good answer. Actually, I was going to ask one of you, what was one of your major supply chain disruption for Welcon, and what was your experience, and how did you adapt? That's a perfect example of how supply chain practitioners adapt to any situation. Sabi nga sanay na tayo sa firefighting.
Yeah, we experienced some hiccups, during the lockdown, of course, because as I've mentioned, the port, they're not in full operation, no, because I think some of the workers were not able to report to work also, and even us, no, some of our workers were not able to work, but we were able to pull strings up, no. So yeah, we were able to serve the 14 stores that are operational, and even when we reopened, we were able to replenish the products, and we did not have any supply disruption despite the spike in demand of some items that we did not expect would move fast during the reopening of during the opening of the economy.
Wow, that's great to hear. Just a follow-on questions, I think, for based on what we discussed. With this pandemic, it disrupted global supply chains extensively. I think not only in the Philippines but all over the world, right? So, and then there was a mention that there's a need, like what Sir Mark mentioned earlier. There's a need to diversify supply chains. How can companies diversify their supply chains? Like in your case, Ma'am Rose, you get most of your supplies in from China. With the pandemic, which hindered you trade from China, would you be looking also for other sources just to diversify your supply chain?
Yeah, as I mentioned, majority of the inventory or the supplies that we have in the store are coming from China, no, even if it's our own private label or things that we source from national distributors, no. So however, prior to the pandemic, no, we already planned of diversifying, no. In fact, we've already started sourcing from, let's say, Vietnam, from India even, no, from India prior to this pandemic, no. So we were already diversifying. I mean, in terms of sourcing products, no. So in fact, we have so many other other suppliers from different countries, no. However, with China, still, I mean, it's so surprising. They were able to recover fast.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, we did not experience any, except for those countries that I've mentioned. I'm sure some of them, they're having, you know, difficulty also in their manufacturing or in their distribution. No? But with China, they were able to recover, they were able to rebound back. No? So it was easy for us. No? In fact, even if there, we cannot physically go to, let's say, to exhibitions, or we cannot physically go and visit the factories, no, they keep on sending samples, you know. That's how resilient, that's how nimble China is, no. So that's why, you know, we did not, as I mentioned, we did not experience yet any disruption in terms of supply, no. So yeah, it's very important that you don't just put your eggs in one basket, no. So yeah, I think that's a good strategy for some retailers as well.
Yeah, that's a very good insight. I actually didn't know that we're able to bounce back that fast. Can I direct also the same question to Mark regarding the need to diversify?
Yes, thank you, Piercarlo. I would say for the Philippines, this diversification, as it was mentioned by Rosemary, is already happening. And it comes naturally when you're doing a business, because you always keep an eye on your environment, on your competitors. Now, for sure, with this crisis and this COVID, it has put a stress on everybody, and everybody has a sharp eye on it and saying, oh, I can diversify more. The way I would say to approach on a global level, it's maybe see what channels you can reach to the ASEAN community. Because, I mean, you have to realize in Asia, the global economic center of the world, you know, this shift over time, if you look at decades over decades, has come to Asia. So you're really in the center, in the eye of the action. So you might want to reshape this and see at the level of the ASEAN community, and when you ministers meet, where you can have a channel, you can maybe lobby there to decide on this pulling up forces on supply chain. Now, you could start maybe by slowly securing some products for which you know your own back country will need it, and in the future, if you look at the midterm, you will know these are important products. And I think Rosemary had a clear vision on that, what is being consumed, what's going to be needed, before the people will feel comfortable again to go do tourism abroad, take planes, etc. Unfortunately, we have been for so long confined. It has also mental effects, not to dismiss. We will need to take it easy. And therefore, on the midterm, I will look for this kind of solutions. But there will be no secret magic formula. You will still need to work with your old partners, and themselves, from their side, being China, other partners, I'm pretty sure they look also at how to secure their business. So again, you need to have your eyes open and really 180-degree lateral vision. Thanks.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that.